I watched all of 2021 and all of the games that he played in 2022. So let's watch him. He's attached right here. Cross, his technique. It's actually a pretty good release in terms of coming off the line of scrimmage with some explosion. Uses a one-step stretch release. And right there, that number 4 was probably meant to chip him and reroute and then get into the flat. But Zack Kuntz with his one-step stretch or his stretch release does a good job of widening that defensive end, and then he runs a crosser. Just good job avoiding some traffic. And then in terms of the catch technique, it's pretty poor, at least seemingly from this angle. And based on what I know of Zack Kuntz, his catching technique is usually pretty poor. So the catch technique. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see here, but his hands are very, very wide in this picture, and he catches it almost with his like bicep and has to double catch it and kind of pin it into his chest. Again, we'll have better views of that later on. It's just when you look at some schools like I believe it's Old Dominion, you're not going to always have, or Wake Forest, you're not going to always have the best quality of film. So some of those are going to happen. But number 2 right here to the bottom of your screen, drift into his break, catch technique. Okay. Comes off the ball, just a delayed release, runs a quick hitch. The one thing you can say is on his break, one, he's really high into it, and you want to see him be much more forceful with that stop step. He kind of just hops into his spot, but and even if this was a spot he wants to get to, you want him to come a little bit more up and then explode back to the ball. But you could see he really drifts. He's almost hopping to turn around instead of slamming that foot into the ground, using the right foot as a pivot, and then the third step would kind of complete the break, and you break back to the ball. Again, he really rounds it, really hops into it. Plenty of dead time at the end. And then in terms of the catch technique, you're seeing him his hands come really wide and clap the ball, hits him in the chest. He's going to have to double catch it. The hand of the defender forces the ball out. But it's because the catch technique, he catches it with his chest here. And then the ball is dropped. So drifted into the break, not ideal. The drop, not ideal. Not coming back to the ball, not ideal. Kuntz alter route pacing, better drive, arm for separation while stacked. Okay, so he's in the slot right here to the top of your screen. Yeah, and this is one of the things that he does do that I like in general. Is that he will come off the ball with an altered pace. You see how he's not running like full speed as he's on that dry phase, and when he breaks outside, that's when he's running full speed. So it's a good job, altering the route pacing right there. And then towards the end of the catch, or when he's going to catch the ball, you could see him place his left arm out just right there. Gets his hand on 9 just to keep that separation. Now again, the catch technique, he catches it with his wrist, seemingly more than his hands, which is never ideal. So you want to see him be able to track that ball better. It's something he doesn't really do well is tracking balls. But it's a good job. It's a good job. Stem towards the corner. Get him leaning back on his heels a little bit. Alter that route pacing as soon as you're ready to explode to the outside. Obviously run it or put it into full gear. That's what he does. Separate our arm for separation right there at the end, and then we want to see him track that ball better into his hands. Kuntz and ability in the run game. Okay, he's right here as the H-back. Let's watch him. So for the most part with Kuntz, his run game is pretty damn poor. The one thing I would say is at the minimum he understands angles, and he understands which the proper shoulder to take on blockers or to block defenders on. So that's something you'll see him frequently do. If it's an inside runner or a runaway, he'll make sure to get his outside shoulder on the defender, which he does right here. Now, you don't want to see the bend from the waist. You don't want to see him ducking his head. You don't want to see his arms so wide. But at the minimum, he attacked the right shoulder and then try to attack the center of gravity to in terms of the waist, to push him up the arc and not allow him to make a play on the ball. So it's bad. It's definitely bad. And if I put all of his bad plays in the run game in this review, it wouldn't be 40 plays. It would be much more. So I didn't want to do that overall. But he does have an ability in the run game to at least attack the shoulder. And right there, he does a good job of it. So Kuntz all route pacing, but tracking slow. Okay, he's right here, bottom slot. Let's watch. again, it's a very similar thing where they're running this Hoss concept, and for Kuntz, he's running a slot fade, and he stems the corner with an altered route pacing. Good job coming off the ball with some acceleration, but he's not running full speed. As soon as he breaks outside, you could see him turn it on to full speed, but you could clearly see him once he turns his head for the ball. He turns his head for the ball early here. Actually, it's not so early, but you could definitely see how much he slows down. Like watch as soon as his head whips around, like watch his speed once he breaks to the outside, and then watch his speed once he turns around. He slows down a lot looking for the ball. And then guess what? You slow down looking for the ball, you're not going to be where the ball is. So he has to do a better job of keeping up his tempo, because a quarterback is throwing to where he thinks you're going to be running at your current speed. And when you break outside and you slow down as much as he does, you're not going to be in that spot. He clearly slows down. He has if he ran under that ball, plenty of room for a touchdown. So unfortunately, we see another example of him not necessarily being the best deep ball tracker. Kuntz out and up catch point ? Okay, so he's attached right here to the top of your screen. Let's watch. So the route is decently, it's good. He comes off the ball, selling the drive phase. He does a good job of undercutting the corner because he doesn't want to take it to his level, cut outside, and then you obviously are working against the body in some context. So you want to cut it flat. He cuts it flat underneath of him. Good job there. Maybe he peeks, use a little bit of a peek technique just to further sell the out. It's kind of hard to tell here, but it does look like the logo on the side of the helmet is facing us. So that indicates obviously he's looking back. So good job looking back if he is, which we think he is. So it's a good job on that. Breaks vertically. Okay, good. But the thing is, and I don't want to be too much of an ass here, but in terms of him contested catches, he's pretty bad. He's pretty bad. In terms of attacking the ball here, he lays out that hand late for separation, but listen, if that corner is going to be running into you, which he is, you have to get vertical and you have to attack that ball. You can't just drift back, and like hope that the ball comes to you and find you in the perfect spot. He's, especially for a guy who's 6'6", 250, like come up, plant your feet, work back to the ball. And then if he's going to run into you, then it's going to be a PI. But to kind of drift away here and not be very, very forceful in attacking the ball, it's not going to result in a catch. It's not going to result in a PI. And here it probably is a PI. We can argue for a PI here regardless. But if he was more aggressive and actually coming back to the ball and attacking and not kind of fading away and just allowing the DB to take him vertical, then we're looking at the minimum of a pass interference there. But that's not what's going to happen. On a lot of instances, because he's not a big attacker of the ball. Top of the screen slot right here. Kuntz TD crosser. Yeah. Good. It's a good job maintaining his balance. He's running a crossing route. And then as he sees that linebacker cutting this a little or dropping down into coverage on most likely the running back, he cuts it a little bit vertical. So it's a good job just knowing where to be and finding the open space on the field. Obviously you could see him turn it on a little bit, and you could tell it's really slow there, but he turns it on once he's finding some open grass. Catch. Good job maintaining his balance for a guy who's 6'6", 250 right there. His leg kind of gets chopped out from, or his one near leg kind of actually doesn't get chopped out from under him. He actually does a good job kind of pulling himself through that. Lightening that near load like running backs do, sticking at the arm to deflect some force and hopefully push the DB into the ground. Maintains his balance, runs in for a touchdown. That's a good play by Kuntz on a crosser. Relatively simple there. Obviously wasn't facing much of a coverage or he wasn't facing much coverage or anything like that, but we have Kuntz fade. All right. Top of your screen slot, number 2 right there. Yeah, it's not the route. It's hard. It's going to be hard to run a fade versus any corner who's going to be sitting off like this corner is. So you maybe want to see him get on his horse a little bit earlier here. You can see his drive phase initially starts, and he really he really hesitates in his route, and maybe he's just trying to alter route pacing to kind of throw off the corner. So there's really not much he could do there in terms of just playing off versus a fade versus an off corner. But in terms of tracking the ball, again here, you see him tracking the ball really slow down and the ball is over his head. He really has a problem locating balls. and he really slows down when he goes to track that ball. So run that route, continue to work vertically. And if the ball is back shoulder, great. But if it's vertical like it is, you have to put yourself in a position to be able to make a play. And just based on the fact of how much he slows down there, he's not really giving himself a chance to make that play. So he's got to run harder than that as he's trying to find that ball. And then again, it's a couple of yards over his head, but is that because he's slowed down so much? And yet the answer is yes. So Kuntz drop, slot right here to the bottom. Let's watch. And again, I feel like I'm not like rushing some of these reviews. I don't know if it's only because I have like 16 left. I've been doing so much, I've been rushing some stuff, but I'm just trying to move through them a little bit quicker and not have to get into every single tiny little detail all the time. Sometimes I will, but today it's not one of those days. So especially when you just get off of work. So now this is kind of more work. So I want to chill out. Today's my Friday, long week. But bottom of the screen, slot right there. Kuntz drop. Okay, out route. And he has some pretty terrible hands at times, but out. Okay, we're not really going to criticize the route break or anything like that because who cares? Now, the only thing I will criticize is in terms of running like more like when you're going to break down at the top of the stem like that, typically it's more versus man coverage. So was this quarterback expecting a speed break and that's why he put it a little bit too far to the outside? Maybe. But in terms of the catch, it still hits Kuntz in both of his hands. He doesn't look it in, and then he turns to run upfield and the ball is not secured. So wide hands or hands that clap on the ball, goes to turn and run, and obviously the ball's not even close to being secured. It's a really bad drop. He's not even remotely close to catching that ball. So not ideal. Drop your hands, get your overhand catching position out. Attack the ball, but you can't just try to clap it like underhand. It's just obviously not going to work very well. So Kuntz crosser. Okay. Inside slot right here, number 3.